Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. As usual, it is so good to have you all here with me for another video. I feel like I have really been on a major hiatus these days. If you saw my last video, you know that I was expecting and I recently had my baby. It's been 3 months since I recorded that video and I wanted to hop back on here and give you guys an update on my journey. I wanted to share my positive labor and delivery experience with you guys. Enough time has gone by where I feel like I can show up here again. And of course, there is a babysitter on board. My husband's watching the baby. I just wanted to return to YouTube in a positive way and to offer some inspiration to women and Black women because birthing is especially risky to folks like us. In 2021, the CDC conducted a study that showed that Black women have a maternal mortality rate of 69.9 deaths per 100,000 live births. That is 2.6 times the rate of non-Hispanic white women, which is pretty scary. So going into this, I was just like super excited and grateful, but I'm not gonna lie, I was also very fearful. Prior to choosing my birthing location and my birth plan, I really wanted to make sure I did all my research and all my due diligence to make sure that I had a very non-traumatic, very safe birthing experience. With childbirth, you really cannot predict what your experience is really going to be like. It's kind of a roll of the dice, and I think that that's evident in the numbers, and really that's just not the way life works. So anytime a woman decides to give birth, they're really just kind of serving up their life on a platter. It is always high risk. You are always at risk in general for something to go wrong. It's really just putting your body on the line to bring another life into this world. No amount of planning can prepare you for any type of negative outcome when it comes to childbirth. So with all of that being said, I wanted to show up here and just sort of give Black women and birthing women in general something positive to look to. It's possible for us to go into this blindly. This is my first child, my first birthing experience, and to have a positive outcome. When I was doing the research, when I was going into my birth plan and planning everything, because I'm a planner, I don't like to go into anything blindly, I came up with a lot of just negative stories. In my research while creating my birth plan, I really tried to be intentional about consuming positive media and content surrounding birthing and Black women. I downloaded the Earth app, which is an awesome app that allows you to go in to review medical care providers and facilities that you've been to as a woman of color, a Black woman, Hispanic woman, Afro-Latina, and to share your experience with other Black women so that when we go in to have our checkups and our experiences, first-time experiences with providers, we can kind of be abreast and sort of know what to expect. So the Earth app is something that I definitely recommend. I also downloaded this podcast called Birthright, and Birthright was really wonderful because it also shared positive birthing experience from other Black women. I really feel that so much of the reason why I had such a positive experience is because mentally I made sure to prepare myself, and I was really intentional about the type of content that I was consuming leading up to my labor and delivery. Y'all, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not gonna sit up here and say that it was just all hunky-dory and positivity and whoop-de-woo. I am very much a pessimist, and I really go into all things with a realistic point of view. I like to do my research about things, and I like to kind of consume the worst of things usually so that I can prepare myself mentally. I know that's not the best way to go into all things, but for me in my life, I feel when I am geared up to take on the negativity in situations, I can better appreciate the positive outcomes in most things in life. So let me just veer away from all this. I recommend the Earth app and the podcast Birthright for any of my Black girls that are going into labor and delivery for the first time, and you just kind of want to soak up more positive content surrounding Black women and their birthing experiences. Download those. That being said, I'm gonna start from the beginning. My pregnancy overall, and I'm very grateful to say this, was low risk. I didn't develop gestational diabetes. I don't have high blood pressure or really any of the dead ringers that could let you know going into birth that you could be high risk. And again, things like this kind of don't matter. Plenty of Black women go into birthing completely healthy and good all across the board, and they don't always make it out alive. So that's kind of a scary fact. But I do want to let you guys know that because I think that that's important. Going into this experience again, if I'm to have another child, I actually want to make sure that I'm even healthier and that I'm in even better shape than this time around, because I really, really, truly feel that if you're healthy, your body will do good by you. If you work hard to keep up your health and you care and invest in your health, only good things can come from that. That being said, my first trimester was rough. I really spent most of the first trimester in bed because I was just really nauseous all the time and exhausted. So my way of remedying that was basically just drinking a lot of ginger tea and laying in bed and just trying to rest as much as possible. I was just exhausted. The second trimester was bliss. When I pulled up to the second trimester, I was like, oh, this is cute. I could do this. I'm loving pregnancy. My energy came back, and I feel like anytime you're down and you hit a plateau in life, and it can be with anything, when you're back on the incline, it just feels that much better. So the second trimester was really awesome. I felt very energetic. I felt beautiful. I loved the stage of my body during my pregnancy. I just felt very feminine and beautiful. Then when that third trimester hit, it just kind of seemed like everything that my body was doing was kind of against me. I became very swollen. I became really miserable. It was just really, really rough. Anyway, I did the best that I could to just kind of get through the last leg of the third trimester, but I'm not gonna lie, towards the end, I just wanted it to be over. And my provider, who is awesome, he was just absolutely fantastic. Yes, I had a male OB. He was just really, really great. He knew that I was really tired towards the end, and he did offer me an induction. And I'm not gonna lie, I was very, very tempted at different points of the third trimester to just take him up on that. But a part of my birth plan was to go ahead and induce my labor naturally and just go into labor naturally. And y'all, on the evening of June 27th, that is exactly what happened. So I was using the restroom and I noticed that my mucus plug had come out. This is usually an indication that labor is about to start. Although I saw it and although I knew what that meant, in a weird way, it was still kind of surreal. I didn't really believe that anything was really gonna happen. I texted Sal and I was like, oh my God, I think I just lost my mucus plug. He was super excited. He was like, oh my God, she's coming. And I was like, I know. But we just both didn't really know what to expect. At this time, he was still working and I was just kind of holding out and waiting for the whole thing to go down. So the mucus plug came out, and literally that very evening at around 8 o'clock, I started to have contractions. Again, it's really hard to describe this when this isn't something that you've done before. You don't really know what to expect, but I had done all my research and all my reading and all my due diligence, so I sort of knew what to expect. But you know, as much research as you can do, you never really know what contractions really are until you're in the thick of it. So at around 8 o'clock that evening, I started to have very mild contractions, and they were pretty far apart. They just didn't feel like anything so intense. In fact, I had read so many different stories on different blogs about how certain people may go into early labor but not actually go into active labor. So I just kind of thought this is just my body psyching me out, preparing me, but I'm not really gonna go into labor right now. Like, there's just no possible way, right? As the evening progresses, both me and Sal are just kind of like, this can't really be it. We still got a little bit of time. But my contractions began to intensify. They began to get closer together. And at this point, we decided to open up the contraction timer app, which is an app that we both downloaded on our phones to kind of be prepared and to really pay attention to what these contractions were doing and if this was actually the real deal. So yeah, 8 p.m. and probably a couple of hours in, I would say at around 12 midnight, the contractions start to intensify a little bit, and I was just really starting to feel it, but not to the point where I felt super concerned. I would say personally that my pain threshold is pretty high. I have had a lot of tattoos and a lot of different procedures done. I've had surgeries, whatever, whoop-de-woo. And I just feel like I have a high pain threshold. So again, it just felt like we were going into this blindly. I didn't really know when to be super concerned, so we relied heavily on that contraction timer app because the closer your contractions get together and the more intense they are, that's a sign that you're going into active labor as opposed to early labor. So I just basically decided to continue to labor at home for as long as possible because again, this was a part of my birth plan. I didn't want to end up going to the hospital prematurely, no pun intended, and to have them turn me around and be like, you're not dilated enough, come back in a couple of hours. That is not something I was trying to do. But basically, when I was starting to feel my contractions to the point where I was unable to speak and I was just so uncomfortable and in that much pain, I knew that that was the point when I wanted to go to the hospital. And honestly, both me and Sal thought that this was just gonna let up and that we were going to pick back up on this a little bit later, like the next day. I don't know why we thought that. I think because Sal had to work the next day. And during this time, I want to say too, we were in the middle of a move. So we just had so much going on. It was a really stressful, exhausting time. We really didn't have a lot of time to emotionally and really even physically prepare because between just going to work, my husband works a very physically laborious job and also was in the middle of moving us out of our old apartment. We are in a new apartment now. That's another can of worms. But that being said, we had just moved into our new place and we're in a transitional period. So we were just kind of like, can this wait? Like, can this come when it's a more convenient time for us and we're not surrounded by boxes? But this baby said, absolutely not. I'm ready to come into the world. And sure enough, around 4 a.m., she was ready. And I was ready because at that point, I couldn't really endure any more of the laboring at home. It just became too much for my body. And I was like, I need to get to a hospital because I need to know, is this the real deal? At this point, I didn't care if they were gonna turn me around. I just wanted to know kind of what I was experiencing. So my husband packed me into the car. We already had our hospital bags packed. We just got in the car and we drove to the hospital at around 4 a.m. I was going to a local hospital in Brooklyn. Brooklyn is really, really big. So we actually moved to a neighborhood called Ridgewood, which is right on the edge of Bed-Stuy, which is where I used to live. So it wasn't too far off from where we planned on driving to the hospital, but we headed there. And thankfully, because it was 4 a.m. and I guess the time of night, there was like zero traffic. So Sal was able to just get us to the hospital without having to like run red lights, which was what he was prepared to do at this point. So I was just like, babe, it's cool, no worries, drive safely and let's just get there. So we get to labor and delivery at the hospital and we pulled up right in the front. Y'all, the security guard was so nice. Sal ran in there and said, hey, my wife is in labor. And the security guard came out and was like, listen, y'all can park your car right here. I will make sure nobody tows it. get her inside. I guess he could really tell that I was super miserable by this point and that I needed to be checked in. So he gives us a wheelchair. He loads me in it. He just pushes me into the emergency room, the labor and delivery ward of the emergency room. And both of us are so stressed and nervous. He is super nervous. He keeps like banging into doorways, which was not comfortable for me. But the poor thing just had to deal with me. So I'm a handful. I know exactly who I am, but add to that labor and delivery, I can't imagine that must have been easy for him. So we finally navigate our way to the labor and delivery ward. The young lady that checked us in was just an angel, such a sweetheart. She immediately brought me into a room, a small room where it was nice and low lit. She brought me the infamous hospital ice chips, which are delicious, by the way. Certain small things will bring you comfort in moments like this, and low-key, the ice chips are one of those things for me. It's just something about chomping down on some ice chips and just diverting my attention somewhere else, distracting myself, really helped in that moment. On top of that, my husband busted out some lavender oil, put that in a cotton ball, and just helped me to breathe and to calm. A OB that was on call that night came in and decided to ask me some questions about how long I'd been laboring for, how long my contractions were, and then she decided to do a cervical check on me, which was my first cervical check of 2 while I was in this area. And this is when they assess just how far I had dilated at this point to see whether or not they were gonna keep me there. And when she did her first cervical check, she told me that I was about 3 centimeters dilated. Now, I don't really know what the acceptable amount of time to be dilated really is for them to keep you there, but I guess that was enough. Or that she knew that I was in so much pain from contractions that she literally said, "We feel really bad for you. We don't want to send you home at this point." So thank God I got to stay there. She came in again and checked me for a second time to see if my dilation, I guess, was progressing. It was. Honestly, I was in so much pain that I don't remember the amount of time between the first cervical check that I had and the second cervical check to know really to tell you guys. I was just trying to bear down and get through with it. And I was just hoping they were not gonna send me home. So I guess thankfully I passed the vibe check and I was eligible to stay there based on how much I had been dilating, or at least I was making some progress based on the amount of time I had already been in labor. I really truly think that the fact that I stayed home and I labored naturally for 9 hours really helped me to allow my body and my cervix the amount of time it needed to soften and for me to start to dilate naturally. I, in retrospect, really kind of give myself credit for hanging out at home and just bearing down and just dealing with the whole miserable experience, as miserable as it was. So once she decided that I was good to stay in the hospital, they basically let Sal and I know that they were waiting for one of the main delivery rooms to open up. And at that point, they were going to go ahead and move us into that room. And I was going to get the epidural. She asked me that second time she came in to check me, "Do you want the epidural?" And y'all, at that point, I said yes. And honestly, this was already in my birth plan. I decided that if I got to a point where I really felt like I needed that extra help, I was gonna go for it. I don't have hangups about pain medicine, and I just wanted to have a positive experience as much as possible. Nothing against people that labor naturally all the way through. In fact, kudos to you. I think that that is so badass and so amazing. That's you. That is not me. I wanted the drugs. So we eventually checked into the main room where I was going to go ahead and labor and have my baby. It was beautiful. It was spacious. It was just Sal and I and the staff and the doulas that were on call, which, by the way, the on-call doulas that night were just wonderful. one woman in particular. I'm not gonna name names or anything like that. I'm not sure if I should really on YouTube, but one doula that was on call that evening was especially kind to me. She really just stuck with me up until the anesthesiologist came in to administer the epidural. She literally held my hand and looked into my eyes, told me to breathe, and just gave me that mental and emotional support that I needed. Because honestly, going into the unknown of things gave me a lot of fear. I was just really freaked out because I just didn't know what to expect. I am sort of a control freak in my life. I like to know things beforehand before embarking into them. So I just expected the epidural to be really, really rough. Different people say that the epidural wasn't administered properly, or it just didn't end up working for them, that it had to be administered multiple times. And I just wanted to make sure that that thing worked, because the last thing I needed was some giant needle being put into me once, twice, 3 times. The whole gig is traumatic enough. So anyway, it worked the first time. The doula that was there was awesome. She really kind of helped the moment melt away and go by very quickly. I just maintained eye contact with her, and just like that, the epidural was in. And at that point, I was just kind of like, that's it. It's over. It's in me. That's it. I can just lay back and relax now. That was it, y'all. From the point that I got that epidural, the remainder of my labor was smooth sailing. I went ahead and took a nap. Sal took a nap. We were exhausted. Don't send it to anybody.
I'm not. This is just for us. This is for Sharella to see, so she can see all the stuff that everyone's doing for her. All the monitors, they're monitoring you. Stay amazing. And this is where they're gonna put you when you're born. And everyone's so nice here. And I'm here too. Your daddy. With your mommy. Me and your mommy are here. And we're both gonna get rest before you come.
I love you, baby.
She loves you. And I love you too.
And we just prepared for me to open up a little bit more and to dilate more, which I did. Although I still felt my contractions, I felt them at a much lesser intensity. They weren't nearly as painful as they had been when I was laboring naturally for those 9 hours. I did have a little bit of fear surrounding that, because I was like, well, am I gonna know when baby's coming? Am I going to know when to push? Am I going to be ready? You know, am I going to be strong enough and in tune enough with my body to know what to expect, I guess. But I just followed my nurse's lead, which I had 2 nurses while we were in there. Both of them were just so lovely. I don't know if these folks get treated poorly on this job, but they just kept saying to Sal and I how wonderful we were. So I don't know, like, I just feel in general, people that provide a service to you, regardless of what that service is, has to be treated kindly. It could be a server at a restaurant, you know, someone checking you out of the grocery store, to a nurse. All of those folks work a job that is a major courtesy to us, makes our lives much easier. So I think that they deserve the utmost respect and love. And my nurses were just wonderful. They treated me with so much care, and they were just so delicate with me, and just did everything they possibly could to make me feel comfortable, both me and Sal. They brought him a recliner to sleep on. They dimmed the lights for us. They offered me the shower and a birthing ball. None of that stuff, once I had the epidural, was necessary. I was just chilling, y'all. I was feeling nice. And then my OB that I had leading up to this showed up. And it's funny because when I was meeting with him at first, I asked him, I was like, hey, when I go into labor, are you gonna be there, or is it gonna be some random? I had some fear that the random person that I had no rapport with would be a less pleasant person to go into this experience with, which I was wrong about that. The previous OB that was giving me those cervical checks earlier to kind of assess to see whether I should stay or go back home and labor for longer was also really lovely. But my OB that I had been seeing All the months leading up to my labor showed up. He was awesome. He was like, let's do this. Let's get this baby out. He showed up closer to when I was fully dilated, maybe around 7 centimeters to 8 centimeters or so. And by this point, I want to say it was around 4 p.m. So we were just chilling in that hospital. So much time had gone by. We were well rested and we were ready for baby to come. After a while, I want to say around 4:45, 5 o'clock, my OB came back and did one last cervical check on me to see whether or not I was ready to push. And at that point, I guess I was ready to push. I think I must have been close to 9 centimeters dilated at this point, and a little bit more of that panic and fear began to set in at this point because I was just chilling with this epidural, y'all. I was just on cloud 9. I just kind of forgot that I had to push this baby out. The baby had to come out of me now. So right around 5 o'clock, I began to push based on my contractions. And I pushed for about 40 minutes or so. Okay guys, I had to come back and make mention of one more thing. As a part of my birth plan, I did not want any Pitocin being used to help induce me during my labor or just to be a part of my labor in general. However, I did end up having to have some Pitocin used towards the very end of my labor so that it would be easier for me to get the placenta out when I was giving birth. I don't really know if this was necessary, but this is just something that my doctor thought would be useful. So I just rolled with the punches. Another part of my birth plan was just to sort of trust my doctor. And if certain things needed to be done, I was just going to free up a little bit and allow what needed to be done. So the Pitocin was not super intense or painful for me. It didn't intensify my contractions as far as pain goes. I know many people that get Pitocin do say that it makes your contractions way more intense. So luckily for me, that was not the case. And I didn't even feel my placenta coming out when I was birthing the placenta after Sorella came out. Hey little mama, she's sleeping. Yeah, I didn't even feel it. I did end up getting some stitches because when she was coming out, I just pushed her out. Like I felt her crowning, and then I decided to give it one more push even though my doctor was like, wait. I just wanted her to come out. So I pushed and out she was. And I think shortly after my placenta came out, but because I pushed so quickly afterwards, I think it did cause some tearing, and my stitches healed really quickly. I want to say after like 2 weeks of being home, my stitches healed, so I was really grateful for that. And yeah, I just wanted to add that, you guys, some Pitocin was used and I did receive some stitching. To what degree, I don't know, but yeah, that did happen. And yeah, back to the video. And right around, I want to say 5:29 p.m., my baby girl was born. Y'all, this was one of the most beautiful, most magical experiences I have ever had in my entire life. I really didn't feel much. I felt some pressure down there as I was pushing. I felt her head come out, the crown, the ring of fire. I didn't feel it. Kind of feel bad saying that for the girlies out there that have felt it, but I kind of didn't feel it. I just felt the pressure of her head there, and I just knew one more push and she was gonna pop out. And at that point my doctor was even like, wait, but one more push and Sorella June Angeletti was here. Right when she popped out, she was loud, she was crying, she was letting it be known, I am here. And she was just beautiful. She was everything that I would have hoped. Put right on my chest, and we did skin to skin immediately, which was something that I wanted in my birth plan. We immediately got a good latch and I was able to breastfeed her right away, which was awesome. And everything was just a dream. It was just incredible. I felt that all of my choices that I made on the fly were great choices for me and my body. I am glad that we left for the hospital when we did, and I'm just really blessed to have a healthy baby girl. Again, she's with her dad right now downstairs hanging out so that I could come on here and make this video for you all. But I'll just put up a video somewhere up here of us together. And yeah, that is basically it, you guys. I had a wonderful, wonderful experience when we were discharged to the mother-child care unit. Our nurses even came back when we were delivering and checked in on us. Everyone was just so nice. I felt like I made genuine, awesome connections with my nurses there as well. There was even a doula that I had met at a doula expo a couple of months before that I didn't realize she was working as a nurse in that unit. She recognized me and said hello. We had actually followed each other on Instagram when we met at that expo a while back. I was just so miserable in that ward by that time with all the fluids and everything from the epidural and just having that pain medicine pumped into you for so long. I was really swollen and uncomfortable. So when I saw her, I greeted her and we were really happy to see one another, but I just wanted to get in and out. I was on my way into a lactation class in the ward and I actually couldn't even make it through the class. I was so uncomfortable. I had my feet kicked up because my feet were just so swollen, you guys. They looked like sausages. That was honestly one of the worst parts of the third trimester and the end of my delivery. It took a month for my swelling to come down. But y'all, I still have no regrets about that pain medicine and all the fluids they kept giving me to make sure that I was doing well and that my baby was going to be healthy when she was being born. As miserable as that was, it was necessary and it was just a minuscule issue in comparison to what could have been. So I wanted to make sure that I shared this experience with you guys because I think that more Black women need to hear that it is possible for us to have a healthy, safe, pleasant experience. If I knew that my experience was going to go just like this one went, I would for sure sign up for having another child in the future. But I'm not gonna lie, I think that I'm done. I know my husband wants another child in the future. I know I'm getting way ahead of myself. I'm only a month out of my labor and delivery, but I know that a lot of you, if you're like me and you're about to give birth or you're thinking about conceiving or you're pregnant or whatever, and you're nervous and you're scared and you clicked on this video and you just needed some positivity going into this, it's possible. It is 100% possible. Continue to look for and seek out positive birthing stories. Again, I cannot recommend it enough. Download the Birthright podcast. There is a lot of positivity there. And look into the Earth app. None of this is sponsored. This is just stuff that I myself sought out and found in my own journey for a positive experience. And I'm really glad that those resources existed because it helps to relieve my anxiety going into childbirth, specifically as a Black woman. It is really scary out here for us in the healthcare world. And I just really want to spread positivity in this experience. Well, if you made it this far, I really hope that you enjoyed this video. I appreciate you for watching and I just hope that it helps someone going through this. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe to my channel down below and turn that notification bell on so that you can stay updated with me and Sal and Sorella and hair content. I have a fresh wash and go going here. I'm trying to just sort of blend it all together because I'm a multifaceted person and I have so much more to share outside of just hair content. So yeah, I'm excited to really share more of my mommy journey with you guys here on YouTube. Also, if you haven't already, follow me on Instagram. I am much more active there, specifically in Instagram stories. If you want to see more of my everyday life or just want to keep up with me there, follow me on Instagram. I am much more active there. I'm also really into that Instagram threads thing. I just recently downloaded the threads. I have the same username there, so if you want to check me out on threads. And yeah, guys, that is basically it. I hope you have a wonderful day, and if you are pregnant or about to give birth, I wish you well in your journey to a healthy and safe delivery. Nothing but love over on this side. I'm the happiest I've ever been in my whole life. My baby girl is my greatest accomplishment, and I'm wishing you nothing but the best. So I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye.